Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another beautiful day with us on Live with Lloyd. I am your host, astronumerologist Lloyd Strayhorn, and to those into holidays, happy Memorial Day to everybody. As you see, I have a very distinguished guest, a woman that I love dearly. She's a number 2 person, a sign of Libra. We have done radio together. I've been invited on her show on Sirius XM. Her name is Maggie Linton. She is an award-winning journalist. She's been married for 39 years, where people not going to be together for 39 days nowadays. And I've had the pleasure of meeting her husband, going to her home there in the DC, Maryland area. But before I start, I want to let you know that today's show is being sponsored by the Sisters of the Traveling Spread. So just go to stshealing.com. That's stshealing.com, where you can sign on. Now, the date is closing, so it's getting closer and closer to the deadline. So we need to have some commitment to join us. That is Nina Diamond, Aquarius Maximus, Jazz Aphrodite, King Simon, and myself, of course, in New Orleans the weekend of August the 17th through the 20th. So please join us. And before I bring my guest on, I always do the forecast for today. By the way, there will be no readings today. None at all. I don't know whether some of you have put your birthday in. Please wait until Wednesday. I'm going to have a numerologist from California, Richard Woods, a very distinguished numerologist. And so we'll deal with that. But this is very nostalgic for me, because this woman has done a tremendous amount for me to really bring me into the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. Okay, so, first of all, let me get this straight. When I say, okay, please like, share, and subscribe. And I will never, Live with Lloyd or Lloyd Strayhorn will never DM you with a message. Since a couple of weeks ago, somebody tried to hack it. So I don't send DMs, okay? Believe me, I'm just learning how to do that. But this is Wednesday. No, it is Monday. I knew. Boy, I'll get this right. It is Monday, not Wednesday. It is Monday, May 29th.
You sure?
Yes. Yep. The sun is in Gemini. I'm sure that. The moon entered the sign of Libra at 10:21 or 10:50 something this morning. I think it was 10:51. It's a 3 universal month, a 7 universal week, a 5 universal day. And so if you are a Virgo or Gemini or Aquarius or Cancer, or if you're born on a 2, like my guests, such as the 2nd, the 5th, the 11th, the 14th, the 15th, 23rd, and 29th of the month, well, obviously this will be a most important day for you. So now let me just take this off a second. And I would like to bring on my very special guest. First of all, let me bring myself on. Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you. So I have the most beautiful lady. I mean, this woman is just fantastic. That's my point of view, but we've been knowing each other for years. Her name is Maggie Linton. Maggie, how you doing, dear?
I'm doing super, Lloyd. How are you?
Fine. We have such a close relationship, especially in the broadcasting thing. Through you coming on your show each month on a Monday, I would always meet famous celebrities. In fact, a couple of them in the interview that you allowed me to. You were very nice about it, because they would call in, you would interview them, and then you let me get my little 2 cents in, especially when Reverend Bishop T.D. Jakes had called in from Texas. And he had just wrote a book at that time called, remember? And you gave me this book. He just wrote this book at the time called Destiny. And you let me talk to him when he called in over the phone. And in fact, that interview is on my website, lloyd-strayhorn.com. Then you had me talk to Monique, the famous comic. Okay. And then that interview is on my website, lloyd-strayhorn.com. Then you had me talk to Leela Hathaway. That interview is on my website, lloyd-strayhorn.com, and a host of other people that you have. First of all, how did you get started in what you do and become an award-winning journalist, Maggie?
Well, first of all, I'm from Kansas. From Leavenworth, Kansas, born in Fort Leavenworth. So today is a very special day for me too, as we honor those fallen men and women who help bring our freedom that is being abused by so many people and overlooked. Our freedom, our way of life was protected and is still protected by them. Military family, and even my niece is still in the army full time right now. So we definitely are a military family. My sister and I always say it skipped a generation. But I went to school at the University of Kansas. I'm a Jayhawk, Rock Chalk Jayhawk for those of you out there. But I changed majors 5 times. I really wanted to be a civil rights attorney. And I got in there and I started doing political science. And I go, this just is not for me. But my parents used to always tell me I was a talker. And I kept changing careers until I found, and when I say that, I mean just taking different classes until my roommate one semester said to me, she said, well, why don't you take a sports broadcasting class with me? And I said, okay.
You love sports too.
I love sports. Lloyd, this is no lie. 3 weeks into that class, the guy who was the voice of the Jayhawks at that point, a guy named Jerry Bailey, came to me and he says, we really like your voice. You seem to know sports. He says, would you be willing to do the noon and 6 p.m. sports reports as we went out on? And it was then the Big 8 tour. And I said, yes, he did. I went and changed classes to do that. And it was the best decision I ever made in my life, because at the end of that semester, I was hired by the radio station, which is the flagship of the University of Kansas. It's changed names now, but at that point it was called KANU. And it changed my life. And I got a job there. I worked for 2 years there doing being a spotter for the football team, doing regular shift on the air, doing classical music and a little bit of everything. But I also started traveling working as a production person for the KU football, basketball, and everything else. It's the best 2 years for a foundation of knowing what to do. And that's how I got started. And after that, I moved to Wichita, Kansas, became the first woman to do sports in Wichita.
Really?
Notice I said woman. So that meant I was the first Black woman too. Then I moved to St. Louis, first woman.
Really?
Sports in St. Louis. Yeah. I mean, it's documented. It's in the papers and everything. And then I moved to Baltimore and to do a talk show called Baltimore at 10. And it was on Channel 11. And my competition was Oprah Winfrey.
And y'all were both twos. She's a 2 and you're a 2.
Yeah.
And it was on Channel 11, which is a 2.
Exactly.
No, that's all.
But it was the best job I had till I moved to Sirius XM. Actually, when I moved to XM, because I was there the day they turned on the switch. But it's just been a glorious career. I've had a lot of fun. I've met a lot of really interesting people. And I'm fulfilling my destiny because I'm supposed to talk to people. I'm naturally curious. I love knowing more. And way too many people don't seem to understand. They think they've learned everything. I learn something new every single day of my life. And I leave myself open to welcome other people in, because that's the best way for knowledge to be gained by all.
Now, I'm trying to remember how we got started, because once we got
I
started,
can tell you how we got
regular
started.
basis for years.
Yeah.
How did we?
I think Sherry Melvin invited you to, I'm assuming it was Sherry. She was
Yes, that's
HR
true.
director at that point at XM on one of our big Christmas parties, I think it was, because XM could throw a Christmas party.
Yeah.
So she invited you in, and you were sitting down kind of not away from everybody, but kind of at the bottom of the stairs. And I walked over to you and I said, hi, who are you and what do you do? You said, I'm a numerologist. I said, let me sit down, because my mom was I'm also a firm believer that there are people who have gifts. My gift is talking to people. Your gift is numerology. And some people go, oh, I don't believe that. And I said, well, that's fine, because I've had a couple of really close friends who were psychic. That's what they did for a living. And they made a very good living. They traveled the world, as you have, honing their crafts and helping other people. And each of us has a gift. And if we don't know what it is, then you need to read T.G. Jakes' books, destiny, because it will tell you what you're searching may be knocking at the door for you, but all you have to do is open it and continue to walk through. And that's where we met. We met at XM at the bottom of the stairs.
And
And it's one of the best hellos I've ever done in my life.
I mean, we developed such a close. And how many years we do it? For about 4 or 5 years, 6 years?
Ooh, no. You would show up at every party and a couple of other things. That was what I loved about it. But once I got my talk show, I was on for 3.5 years. And you were one of the first people that I had on. And every time I had you on, they blew out the phones. I mean, 900 and some people would call almost every time. They called me in and they said, "Who are you having on? Why are so many people calling?" And I said, "People want to know how they can be helped." And you always help them.
Yeah. And I enjoyed it too. I
Yeah.
enjoyed meeting so many people. In fact, let me show a picture because among the many people that I was blessed to meet in person and over the show when they called in, was this picture was taken of us in 2016, Donna Brazile.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Well, Donna Brazile, when I think of some others that were there with you, it was fun. We always had a good time, didn't we?
Oh, and I had fun with this gentleman too.
Yeah. Mark Thompson.
Mark Thompson.
And
Yes.
Mark, I believe, is still on XM. Well, Sirius XM it is now. And he was on the Progress channel.
And in fact, I saw him in a department store. I looked at him. I says, "Aren't you Mark?" And he looked at me, "Aren't you Lloyd?" And so, in fact, I'm thinking about having him on the show because he always appears a lot on these major networks talking about, issues that affect our community, politics, everything, just like Donna Brazile.
Yeah.
So it is very, very nice. Now, when you said you are award-winning journalist, speak on that for those, especially young ladies that might want to go into the world of journalism.
Well, my first award came as an Emmy with Reverend Jesse Jackson when he was the running for president of the United States. And at that point, I was producing a talk show called,
because that was in
America's
84 or 88.
It was called America's Black Forum. And Julian Bond was the host. So I worked for 2 years with Julian Bond, an absolutely fascinating man and really so very, very bright. But I worked with Julian and I produced that show. We won an Emmy for that show. It was a special. And then my second one was done. It was a 3-part series called Foot Soldiers. And the Foot Soldiers, we went down to Alabama, down to Selma when they were doing that new march from Selma to Montgomery. But we covered the people who were in the background. There are a lot of people who get all the fame and, Rosa Parks and so many others. But the reason why the movement made it as it did was because of the many different people, mainly students. You'd be amazed at how many of them at that point were anywhere from 14 to 17 years old. And the teachers and things would cover for them. They made sure they got their lessons done, but then they would go out and be locked up in jail and things like that. And so many of them only wanted they couldn't even vote, but they wanted their parents to be able to vote, to be able to sit on buses, to be able to do those many different things that we now take for granted. These were the people who were sacrificing. And later on in life, I met one of the women who really helped turn the path for me. Her name is Linda Blackman Lowry. And she was the youngest person who walked from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama. She has a beautiful book out called Turning 15 on the Road to Freedom. And I recommend it to everybody because she was one of those people who was there for Bloody Tuesday when they got turned around, stitches in her head, in the back of her head, in the front of the head. Her dad thought she was going to die, that kind of thing. She was someone who lost her mother early. So, she was really committed to the movement and she and I became friends. But I also got a chance to talk with Fred Gray, who to this day is 90 some years old. and has written many books. Go get them, folks. But the thing about Fred is he was the attorney for Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks. And he and his brother actually helped put the glue together for the Montgomery bus boycott.
Interesting.
So, yeah, but there were so many people that we talked to. Like I said, it turned into a 3-part series because we kept it going, we kept it moving. We were there, and when I say we, Adele, my sweet, wonderful
Oh
producer,
yeah, Adele.
Adele
Yeah.
DeBose now, as she is known, and a guy whom we have now lost. His name was Bart Taylor, and he was our production guy. But we won that National Association of Black Journalists (NABJ) award, and it was one of the proudest days of my life because I was up against some stiff competition from all over the country, and to win that for that 3-part series was really wonderful. And I've won some other miscellaneous awards and things like that, both locally and not many nationally, but statewide, that kind of thing, in the places that I've lived.
Well, you know what's so fascinating when you would have me on those Mondays when I would come in each month, you would always have guests on, and you were just so engaging. It's just, I mean, talk about class. You are a perfect role model to
Well,
see how
thank
a
you.
person should do it. I mean,
It's my gift, and I'm using my gift. Like, when things start happening to you, you're being told this is your path, and you don't let anybody stand in your way. Way too often, the old saying, somebody's drowning, a guy is drowning, and he's saying, praying to God, oh please, send me somebody to save me. And so, he sends a truck, and the guy says, no, I'm waiting for God to save me. And then he sends a boat. And then he sends a helicopter. And when the guy is sitting there at the pearly gates, he says, I was waiting for you to come and save me. And he says, well, who do you think sent the truck, the boat, and the helicopter? It's like a lot of times people are being slapped in the face in there, and they don't open the door to it. And I kept opening the door every opportunity I got, even with my new show, when I left XM, Sirius XM, I thought I'm going to get into a show, and I think I talked to you. I said, "Oh, it's been a good time, but it just wasn't the right time. We were
hmm
building a house, and a lot of other things were going on in my life, and it wasn't the time." But when Lent came this year, everybody says, "What are you going to do for Lent? What are you giving up?" I said, "I'm not giving up anything." I said, "I'm getting ready to get my podcast on the air," and it's been glorious. It was one of the best moves I've made.
And in fact, I'm going to be a guest on your podcast this Thursday,
It's
I believe
Thursday.
at 7, right?
Yes, yes, yes. We're gonna figure out how to be live.
Now tell us, how did you start your podcast? What's the name of it? And I guess like everything, your thing is always to raise people's awareness, to keep them informed as you do.
Mhm.
I know you love what you do. That is so
Yes,
obvious.
yeah. Um, I decided I was going to do it much like I was doing my own talk show, and the I love everything. And like I said, I'm naturally curious, and I could talk about women's issues, but I'm always going to be a woman. I could talk about black issues. I'm going to always be black. I could talk about, what I'm mad about. Well, there aren't many things I'm mad about because I let mad go away and not bog me down. Um, but so I decided I was going to do exactly what I love doing, talking to everybody, talking about everything. And, with still some emphasis on helping people, helping them learn from a path that someone else has taken. Just like the first show that I did was with a very close friend of ours, Cayman Kelly.
Yeah, that's my
Cayman,
buddy. That's my
wonderful
buddy.
guy. His story, he and I were talking about how much we made the first time we actually got paid for doing broadcasting. And my first paying job in broadcasting was for $186.56 per month. And it was a 3-quarter
Whoa.
job, and it was in 1972. Okay. Now,
Per
needless to
month?
say, per month. But I had a couple of other jobs too, and was going to school full time.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
And Cayman was working for $6 an hour, but it was only a 4-hour shift. but he would wind up staying there for maybe 6 to 8 hours. But, it wasn't called an internship, but it was basically still a lot of free stuff. And that's what you've got to do sometimes. You got to pay your dues. And I see so many young people who walk out and say, well, I want to make $100,000 a year. And I said, for what? What have you done? What kind of track record do you have? But my show is called The Shared Path.
How did you pick that title?
Well, I was going to do Sharing the Journey, and you could look it up. There's a lot of Sharing the Journeys. And then I was going to do the Shared Journey. Oh, that's already taken too. And I said, what else is a journey? And it's a path. It's a path we walk on. We can go to the left or to the right, or we can go straight ahead. And what causes our, path, the choices we make, which paths do we go to? But we're never doing it by ourselves. And if you think you are, then you got a lot to learn, because no path is ever done by one person. I'll give you an example of trying to get my show on the air. Okay. Mm-hmm. I called you for guidance. Mm-hmm. And you said April 20th, Maggie, it's right before retrograde moon, but it's a new moon and that kind of stuff. I said, okay. So I said, I had that down, April 20th. Well, I had a friend who was supposed to come and help me, but he has a full-time job. Okay. And the night before it was supposed to go on, or actually the day before, he got called into work. So I said, okay, so Rez can't help me. So I called another guy named Gary Johnson. And Gary is the head of blackmeninamerica.com. That's another one you should check out, folks. His name is Gary Johnson, blackmeninamerica.com, along with 100 other hats he wears. And I said, well, maybe I can take it over to his house. At that point, he was still living in Maryland. As I said, I thought.
Yeah.
So I called him and I said, Gary, can I bring my stuff over? And he says, Maggie, I guess I didn't tell you. I moved to Florida. And I go, well, I guess we'll be going there. So this friend of mine named Carl Powell, who is a wellness person. He's actually one of the people that I did an interview with. I think he was the 8th show I did. But he now realizes that over 50 years old, you've got to be gentle with people. And he lives in Maui. He called me at 3:00 that afternoon. He says, on the 19th, he says, Maggie, what's going on? He says, I just had a feeling I'm supposed to call you. And I explained to him, he said, send me your stuff, baby. I got you covered.
And he's in Hawaii.
And he's in Hawaii. So that's a 6-hour difference.
Yep, it certainly is.
So that gave me more breathing room. I explained to him what I wanted. He redid my logo. He uploaded my show. He got me onto YouTube. He got me, I swear.
Now you're on Spotify and all of them, right?
Yeah.
Under the Shared Path.
Under the Shared Path. And it's on video if you want to see it. It's on YouTube. And it's on Spotify, Apple Music, and Google Play, and a few others through the Spotify system, if you just want to listen to audio. But give it a try, And I've got, a blockbuster June coming up. Going to be talking with, I kick off the month of June with you, but also it's Black Music Month. And another former,
yes, it is.
Yeah, another former ex-simmer. Her name is Deborah Bond. It's spelled like Deborah, Deborah, Deborah Bond. She always said she wanted to be a singer. Now she sings all over the world. Did a couple of different ones in Dubai. Is now out with Incognito. Plays all over the world. In fact, just started a new tour with Incognito, has a brand new album out called, I think it's Crossfire, Compass. It's called Compass One. That's what it's called, Compass One. And I will tell everybody to go to YouTube and see her new video. It's almost like a mini movie, and it's a nod to Billie Holiday. Part of it's done in black and white, part of it's done in color. It's magnificent.
And what's her name again?
Deborah Bond.
B-O-N-D.
B-O-N-D. Go to YouTube, and her newest video is called Time. T-I-M-E. And she explains how she got that put together was during COVID, there were people literally from all over the world who added their instrumentation to her words. And they
Wow.
never sat in the same studio at the same time. But now, the time, that one she did work with mainly her bandmates, and a lot of it was just natural. They didn't have a script, but they knew what they wanted to accomplish. And it's amazing. I just absolutely love it.
That's what you call an organic type of situation.
Yes.
Everything just
Yes.
synergistically come together, you know?
Exactly. And that's exactly what happened. And so, I kicked it off with her. I'm also going to have Jeff Bradshaw, who is a trombonist,
Hmm.
and a few other people. But in between, um, Christian de Masones, who had a number one hit on the jazz charts called Hispanica earlier this year. So I'm so happy to be able to have some of my friends. Matthew Shell, who lends music to my show. That's the open and closes of that. And a number of other ones. Like, got my fingers crossed for a few others that I can't really name right now. Got some other New York Times bestselling authors to come on. So it's going to be fun.
That's what I wanted to ask you. On those Mondays, once a month for a couple of years that I would come in, I would always be curious, how did you get those amazing cross sections of guests?
It was a combination of working a lot with publicists, whom I'm still working with, um, from again, all different walks, but also I had become such, and I will say, really friends with so many New York Times authors, best-selling authors, New York Times, USA Today best-selling authors, international authors, David Baldacci, Lee Child, Brad Meltzer, Kim Roby, Kimberly Lawson Roby, um, Beverly Jenkins. I mean, there were so many authors. And I, have to give a nod to John Hope Bryant, who runs Operation Hope and is the leader of Operation Hope. And he would come on and talk on finances because, Wednesdays, as far as I was concerned, was Wealth Wednesdays. We have to learn how to use our finances properly. We don't need the biggest car in the world if we're still living in an apartment. You
That
know,
is true.
uh, we don't need false eyelashes that I can brush you with from here in Maryland to be somebody. You need to spend your money wisely. You need to save some money. And was constantly giving finances out. My friend Lisa Askeles had her on. She's an entrepreneur and inventor. She helps people get on QVC, HSN, places like that. And Lisa just recently was featured on a billboard in New York in Times Square. She was being honored by a magazine, Inventors Magazine. So you've got to, all these people that I've just named, I've formed friendships with. And, my respect level goes out for them. But for you, it was always, you gave people hope and you gave them guidance and you gave them direction for their path. And that was what was so very important.
And I enjoyed it too.
Oh,
I
yes.
really,
Yes.
really, really enjoyed it.
And
You
honey,
know, it's
folks would call in 5 and 10 minutes early, and there was somebody in the same studio that I was before me, and he'd say, "Can't you tell your people not to call until 10?" And I said, "I can't control people out of that." He says, "They're always saying, 'Is this Lloyd?'"
yeah, yeah. But I
So
mean, it
you
was
were probably
just
my
a
number one
very,
guest.
very nice experience. And I mean, you were always just always very gracious, always very nice, Maggie. So my whole thing was to have you on because people need to see the woman that was behind my success in the DC. And you and Cayman Kelly, because when Cayman Kelly
Mhm.
first started out as what would be called an intern practically, he would
Right.
always call me in. So
That's
I've been knowing him way before he got married, way before he
right.
had his children, way before he had his dogs, way before a whole lot of things.
The big
So it
house.
just shows when you build very solid relationships, and people don't want to seem to do that anymore. People
Yeah.
seem to have changed. It's like nobody wants lasting relationships, and yet these things are very, very important.
Well, I had a couple of friends over today. It was just Memorial Day, and did some cooking and things like that. And we started talking about how long we've known each other. And my one friend I've known since I moved to Baltimore, which was in 1978. She had the office right next to me. And the other one I've known since about 1980. We both used to work at Channel 5 together. And then from 5, it's like gone on with many different jobs and things like that, but we've always remained close. And you've got to, again, we are here to share our lives and, kindness and concern and being a solid friend. You can call me anytime, night or day, and know that I'm going to pick up the phone for you. There have been people like that over the years who have been with me, and I may not talk to them every day, but when we pick up the phone, it's just like we talked yesterday.
Well, I can vouch for that between you and I. We may
Yeah.
not talk regular the way we used to, but when we do, we talk and play catch up and things of that nature. So
Well,
I'm very
I have to give your app a prop. Can we talk about A Star 8?
yeah, okay.
Can people go get it, Lloyd? Because
Yes, they can get
I was
it, and
part of the trial balloon.
I do believe that right now it's available on Android, but either by this Wednesday or next Monday, all iPhone users can be able to download it too.
Well,
But
talk about that, Lloyd, please, and then I'll tell you about my experiences with it. By the way, this is a three-star Green Day, and I need to get someplace to get some tickets.
well, that was one of the reasons why I selected you too. Well, it's interesting. This a Star 8 app that was developed by myself and a team out of India and Trinidad. Um, what came about as a result of being on your show and other shows. And during these sessions, during these readings, telling people about their lucky numbers, their days, their months, and this, that, and the other. And I says, wouldn't that be a nice thing if I could do it? So one day I made a trip to Trinidad, and the gentleman named Uchenna, which I affectionately call Chinna, says, Lloyd, you should do an app. This app would be worth millions. He was on me for about 2 years because I said, nah, Chinna, I don't feel like doing it. But it was one of the best things to happen. So now when I do these things, people can actually download the app, put your name and their birthday, and learn a host of things too. How did you find it? What was your experience with it?
I love it. I think I told you when we were talking about me being on, I said it was a 2 Green Star day. That's the reason why I said I need to go get a ticket. And something just said, "Oh, go to the casino," because we, here in Maryland, we can gamble, and there's a casino maybe about 15 minutes from my house. And I went over there, and this one little machine was smiling at me, had a little leprechaun on it and stuff like that. I go, "Okay, is my pot of gold there?" Well, it was that day. I put 20 in and I got 159 out. So I figured that was a pretty good day. And I didn't give it all back. I gave him a couple pennies back, but I said, no,
Yeah, but you give all your money back, right?
no,
I
I don't.
double Green Star Day.
It was a 2 Green Star day. So I got a 3 right now. Should I be headed to the casinos?
Well, I know I do it where it's very helpful. And the
Mhm.
calendar is one of the things that triggered it because for years I would meet clients, especially business clients, who wanted to kind of get a heads up on the calendar year in front of them. And so every year I would always do these calendars. I think I did calendars
In
for
green
you
and
for a
red.
couple of years. Yeah, because you would always
I
send me
would
the Tuskegee calendars in there. And I want to hold them. I didn't want to give them back to you. I wanted to keep them for
Well, I
myself.
started sending you two. You said, "Could I have one of these?" Yeah, because I believe in supporting. There's a Red Tail Squadron,
Yeah,
Tuskegee
yeah.
Airmen one, and people can choose to put their money wherever they want, and but they're one of the ones I really support because they were out there talking about saving lives and losing lives. They were out there when the world was against them in America. The rest of the world was pretty accepting, but still there were a lot of hills to climb at that point, and those men were out there, and a lot of them were really young men too.
Yeah, and when the Tuskegee Airmen went abroad, they were more well received than here in the
Yes.
States. They were
Hmm.
probably given no credit for being anything.
Yeah.
I don't
But
think
Eleanor Roosevelt helped change things for them when she went riding with them.
who Eleanor Roosevelt.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh. Yep.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
were, still being kind of pushed off to the side, and she says, "I want to go ride with them," and that opened everybody's eyes.
because out of them came great men like
Oh yeah.
Percy E. Sutton, who's the chairman emeritus of the Inner City Broadcasting
Hmm.
Company, borough president. I mean, the gentleman was just
Yeah.
fantastic. He and countless others.
Right.
Uh,
Well, Benjamin O. Davis,
yes,
first general. Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah,
So
it's
it
there
was
was
like a who's who at
yeah.
that point in terms of the Tuskegee Airmen. I think there's been a one or two documentaries and or movies made um, featuring these distinguished airmen
Yeah.
of bravery and of color.
Right. Exactly.
And I
Exactly.
don't think they lost anyone overseas. I don't think anyone.
Um, they did a few, but in comparison to the other groups, after a while, it's like, can you give me an escort? Come on, that's what the White Flyers were saying because they acted as escorts. But after a while, they were leading the pack. They were something to be proud of, as
Yeah.
is so much of our history that is still coming to fruition and to knowledge. We know it already.
What about this whole notion now about woke? I heard the word. I don't think I really kind of understand it.
Well,
Woke
to
means to be
me,
awake, isn't it?
yeah, same sort of thing. Um, to me, now this is my own interpretation of it. They're telling people to be awake or woke, but it was something my parents taught me to be forever. They're telling people to wake up. People still do not realize the power that they have in their vote. You know, it's my sister is head of the Horry County Democratic Party in South Carolina. People will register to vote, but they don't come out and vote. They say, "Oh, things will change, stay the same." Well, the reason why they stay the same is because they don't get out and vote. There are more Black folks living in many of these areas, and they won't go vote. So they still wind up continuously with somebody like Lindsey Graham, and now,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's like, who's well, anyway.
Why do you think that is though, Maggie?
I don't know because they've been beaten down so much, Lloyd. And I really mean that. My sister moved to South Carolina because her job took her there. She came out of New York, from Kansas to New York, New York to South Carolina. She never had to work three jobs to make it work. You know,
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
um, there are so many of her friends work two at one point worked two and three jobs to be able to have ends meet because say Myrtle Beach is very much a service industry sort of thing, hospitality industry. They're not paying them out. They're waiting. People are waiting for tips. Well, you know what? Why not pay them a living wage? And I don't mean just your minimum wage. I'm talking a living wage where they don't have to go out and do that. I see all these companies moving to where there are non-union states, or they call it well, anyway, but basically they're non-union states, but the right to work states, that's what they call them. Well, right to work, hell, everybody has a right to work.
Well,
What are we
yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about, folks?
Yeah.
And if you aren't in a place where you have the right to work, I'm proud union member, of SAG and AFTRA, and I'm on the board here and I'm on the national board. But I believe in people getting a living wage. I believe in people working for others to get a living wage. When I go out and I tip in cash. Number one, because I've been on that other side. I've
Yes, I
been a
have too.
waitress. I've been a short order cook. I've been a barmaid. I like having those tips that I don't have to report to Uncle Sam. They can only charge you for so much. But
Yeah. Yeah.
why not treat people as you want to be treated? Be kind, be generous when you can. Um,
And
you
it
know,
costs nothing to act acts of kindness. Nothing.
yes, yes,
It doesn't.
exactly,
And you
exactly.
know what's interesting? This whole minimum wage thing,
Mm,
I'm thinking everything is going up except a person's salary. How in the world can they keep up? Then
yeah,
they will say, well, 2 years from now, we'll raise the minimum wage. 2 years from now, do you think milk will still be the same price? Rent will be the same price? Food will be the same price? Electricity the same price? So people will say, well, yeah, 2 years from now, it'll be up to whatever it's supposed to be. But a minimum wage is nothing compared to a living wage. Here in New York alone, Maggie, there's a building being constructed where the rent is $4,000 for a one bedroom that is small. the 2-bedroom is going to be $6,000.
That's crazy.
The person that working at McDonald's can't do that,
No.
or Kentucky Fried, or
Mm-mm.
you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And so
When businesses say they're going to go out of business if they pay people that kind of money, well, you're making money. you
yeah.
know, you know, it just doesn't make sense to me. So,
No, well,
and
it doesn't make sense.
yeah,
And
yeah,
maybe that one of the reasons why this country is having so many problems with the economy now. People don't want to go back to work from the COVID. Now people finding out that, I can work staying right at home. All I
yeah,
have to do is just get up and put on a shirt, and I can sit in my underwear, you know what I'm saying, and be right at the meeting and everything like that and go right back to bed.
yeah,
So
exactly.
it's a big, big difference of how things have changed in people's attitudes too.
Yeah,
But
it really is.
but to raise everything except the person's salary is not only counterintuitive, it's wrong.
Yeah. Well, I have a son who works, and he isn't getting wealthy, but they're getting ready to raise his health insurance almost double what it was to over $700 a month. Well, that's a week's pay for him. Why should a
Well,
week's
how should he
pay?
do that?
Well, and this is through his company, So it's just
And he still got to
and
pay
he still
rent.
has rent,
Does
food.
he have a family?
No, he's single, but even at
Luckily,
that, but
luckily.
even at that, rent, car insurance, running a car, getting gas in it, that kind of thing. He doesn't eat out a whole lot because he can't.
Well, it's interesting. Car notes used to be 3 years. Now they're 6 and 7 years. Can you imagine being
No,
tied to a car note?
no,
And
I can remember paying
I
cash for
had an
cars.
accountant on. You had said earlier about a person having an expensive car living in a project. Well, I've had an accountant on, Dr. Yana Woodhouse, that had said that somebody had a Maybach living in the project. Now, a Maybach is high end. It's like,
Food. That's
it's
top of
so,
the line Mercedes.
yeah, it's so
Yeah.
contradictory
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
do that. And so anyway, I just don't understand. Maybe it's not for us to understand, but I know this. The common sense of it says that how can people keep up? And a person who is paying 4,000, if they miss a month, now they got to come up with 8 grand. If they
Mm-hmm.
miss 2 months, they got to come up with 12 grand. And if
Mm-hmm.
that is not putting a lot of pressure psychologically, emotionally, how's people going to come up with that?
Well,
I just don't know.
so much of it is also um, people not paying attention to, again, they think they're owed something. We are owed nothing. You've got your air to breathe and choices to make. And I think about the way things were before the pandemic. And then folks got a couple of little $1,200 checks, and they started thinking somebody owed them something. Nobody owes you anything. You want something in life, you got to go work for it. That's my parents used to always say, success is always the best revenge. When somebody tells you you can't go do something, you go do it.
Do it. Yep. Yep.
And when somebody says, oh, you think you're all that, I said, you know what? When I'm done, I tell people I'm nobody special. I just do something where that's more visible, but I still got a wipe when I'm done. And unless somebody's got some kind of miracle thing that they're doing, guess what? We're all just the same. We're breathing
Maggie,
the same
I
air,
think our parents
drinking the
knew
same
each
water.
other. I think our parents knew each other because that was the
Mm-hmm.
same way. Nobody owes you anything.
Mm-mm.
Yet, I guess this generation Z, X, Y, Z, Zen, whoever mother it is, they got this thing about entitlement.
Yeah.
Entitlement. Really? What are you entitled? One time I was in Texas and I was doing this interview, and the guy had called in, for reading, and he got sarcastic. He says, yeah, I want to know when is my ship coming in. And I found myself saying, did you send a ship out there? How you going to want something to come in and you don't put nothing out there? And that's in
Exactly.
all aspects of life.
Yeah.
You got to put in the work. There's no question about it. You can't get around it.
That's right. Yeah, it's it ain't a pipe dream. It's called work. And I've worked Went out and got a stretch today. That's replacing massages for me, but got a stretch. And I was talking to the young woman, and I said, I've learned that I can work any hour of the clock. I can remember a job where I used to have to be at work at 2:45 in the morning. And I
Wow.
left that job to be at work about an hour later at 4 o'clock in the morning. And that was with XM. And that was one of the most fun jobs I ever had. And then used to always go in at 6 o'clock in the morning. I love getting up, getting out, getting my day started. I start with a reading, a little meditation if I have the time. And if not, I'm on the train and doing my meditation. But it's thanking God every day, all day, for what I've been given and what I still know that has to be done. Because if you don't believe in a power stronger than you, then you need to go back and check yourself, because nobody's doing this world by themselves.
Would you be surprised how many people think they are doing it
Oh yeah,
all by a one-man show, though?
oh yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
Nobody does this by themselves. And we're all connected, you know.
Yes, yeah,
Like they said, the elbow's connected to this bone and that bone's. Well, it's the same way in the human experience of things. And we all need each other before it's over. And they're looking at the economy, things are going to get a little bit more challenging than it gets better. That's for
yeah.
sure.
But you know what? As challenging as it may be, because my husband and I have been, I won't say frugal, but learned to save, we're not hit as bad as many people. I didn't mind going and talking to my financial advisor about moves that were being made. What can we do with this? What can we do with that? He says, leave your money where it is, let it ride. You're not lose. And now, we're pretty much made up for it and maybe more. And, it's the perspective, because a lot of people feel hopeless, but it's because they've done nothing to make sure that they didn't have to feel hopeless by putting things in place. I can remember when, I was saving $25 a month when I was making very little money, but I always managed to put $25 a month in a savings account. And if I got a raise, then maybe it turned to 35 or $50 a month and that kind of thing. And it's easy, even if you're on a fixed income. There should always be, my dad used to always say, because had been in the army but then became an independent businessman, and my mom was a beautician and she was an independent businesswoman, pay yourself first.
First. Yeah. Yeah.
Always pay
Always
yourself
the
first.
rule. Yep. Yep.
That's the rule. And so I always pay myself first, even to this day, and just those little hints of things of what to do.
Now, I need to ask you this
Mhm.
on both sides of the scales, of the many, many people you've interviewed over the years, is there one that's at the top of your like highlight list? And is there one that is say, oh boy, I don't think I'll have them back anytime soon?
There are so many on that highlight list.
Yeah, yeah, I
And
know.
I mean, really, when you, um, that's a really hard one for me,
Well,
because
I just go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I mean, other than you, no, but seriously, I've been blessed with talking to Will Downing and Fleet Michael. I call him Michael Fleetwood, Mick Fleetwood of Fleetwood Mac.
Hmm.
That same day, I also did an interview with George Clinton, and
Wow.
and I have to say, uh, Tavis Smiley, who's been beaten up by the media and other people for a long time. And I'm so happy for my friend, because, they didn't want him back on the air, and he went and bought himself a radio station,
Yeah, that's what he did. In fact, I
So,
appeared on his show in California.
yeah,
You know,
exactly. So,
and Will Downing, I work with together here in New York on WBLS radio in the mornings,
yeah,
5:30
so,
in the morning. And
exactly. And to hear his story and things like that. But, um, Oh my God, Nancy Wilson, and whom I just think has always had one of the most beautiful voices in the world. And um, uh, that's a really tough one, Lloyd.
No,
Not
but I can tell
not
you
naming
this.
more famous people, but like I mentioned just not too long ago, my friend John Hope Bryant, the things he's done with his Operation Hope in changing people's lives and their perspective on their financial literacy and things like that. He used to come in regularly, whenever he was in town, once every 6 weeks or so. Um, some of my favorite authors, David Baldacci and Lee Child, who wrote the Reacher series. And,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh,
But
there's
you know what I would
so,
love when I would come to see you each month?
mm,
You would let me pick books. A lot of these books I have came from your studio. I would come and read them, and the
yeah.
Destiny, like with Reverend T.D. Jakes,
Bishop T.D. Jakes, yeah.
Bishop
Mhm.
T.D. Jakes, that came from your studio after we did the interview,
Yeah.
and you
Well, I
were
have
just
to
as
tell
nice.
you, just recently I did an interview with a couple of different authors, and I'm really hawking their books too. Once again, I'll tell you about Linda Blackman Lowry's book, Turning 15 on the Road to Freedom. I recommend that to all, and it's also been made into a play. And so you can maybe catch it somewhere along the line. But Ellie, what's it called? Ellie Ingalls Saves Herself. It's had the world on it, and that was crossed out. It says Saves Herself. And it's written for young adults, well, I'll say more teens, but it's something everybody can learn from. And you know what they can learn? To believe in themselves. That's what that book is about. No matter whether you have special gifts, each of us has a special gift, and you
All
don't
of
may
us.
not realize it yet.
Yep, yep.
But accept yourself as you are, and you'll have that much more of a chance to move forward. And it's a wonderful book, and I recommend it to everyone. And it is by I I know you. Here we go. What's the name of it? But anyway, it is called Ellie Ingalls Saves the World, Saves Herself. And I can't remember exactly. Oh, Kimberly Williams, I think it is.
Hmm.
But I'll have to remember the name. It's either that or Leah Johnson. I know I've done too many authors
I know
already.
you've done them all, and
Yeah,
I'm
but
gonna
I've
tell
got
you.
lots more. I've got lots
And
more.
I was very blessed to not just appear on your show on a regular basis, but to listen to the myriad of interviews and people. That's how I met again Monique and Leela Hathaway and Bishop T.D. Jakes and no telling how many more people
Yeah.
that you allowed me to interact with them. And it was just that was so nice of you because you could have kept it like straight, but you always got me engaged with them, and I love getting engaged with them. And some of those interviews they can actually hear thanks to you and Adele on my website, lloyd-strayhorn.com.
Well, Bishop T.D. Jakes is also a very special man. I just can't even say enough about him. I'm very much. I heard him on CBS this morning because he's starting another new project. Building homes for, project for getting homes for people who are a little less fortunate. Um, and he said on there, "I'm fulfilling my destiny," and I said, "Yes, you are."
Yeah,
But
yeah.
his, just hearing his voice and the calm within it, and that deep baritone. I'm so happy. Every time I see him, I smile and say, what a wonderful man he is. He really, really is. And I've had some great experiences in my lifetime too. I was part of the um, crew, production crew, during the Obama Lincoln Memorial concert. So I worked that concert and 3 days leading up to it and meeting all of these different people, from, um, well, Beyonce and Garth Brooks and so many others, Bruce Springsteen, they were all there. We had such a great time. It was absolutely wonderful. But I also worked on the dedication for the World War II memorial. And that one meant a whole lot to me because my dad had been in World War II as well as the Korean War. And that
Wow, interesting.
that made a very special time too. And the 3 days leading up to that, and I can think about this right now. It must have been almost 100 degrees. And you know that humidity in DC could kick your behind.
Yeah, yeah.
That morning we woke up, it was the mid 70s and no humidity, or it for no humidity for Washington, D.C. And I said to my friend who was working on it with me, I said, God is smiling on these veterans today and saying thank you. And that still is my special memorial downtown, to see that there will never be an opening ceremony again, and to have been part of that was just so very special. So, and I one other thing, my band when I was in high school played at Johnson's inauguration ceremony. We were in the inaugural parade for Lyndon Johnson. We
Lyndon
came all
Baby
the way from
Johnson.
Kansas.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And by the way, I have to tell you folks out there, Lloyd is so good with knowing who's going to win an election. Because I can remember having you on the show, and we were all nervous about that first Obama run.
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
looked at me and you said on air, he says, for the record, Maggie, the next president of the United States will be Barack Hussein Obama.
You know, I said that 18 months in advance, and the day before the
Mhm.
election, people were still calling me to ask me, was I sure? Go figure.
And when it was
18
take
months, I'm
two,
consistent, 18 months. And they still ask, are you
yeah, I
sure?
know the field is way too wide right now, but I can tell you who ain't gonna win. But just throwing that out there, and I'm not a numerologist, folks, but I can tell you,
Yeah.
don't waste your vote.
Well, let me say this. Please, everybody, you see the banner at the bottom of the screen. Maggie Linton, award-winning journalist, radio podcast host, and a very, very dear friend to the nth degree. And as I said, I've been blessed to go to a home, meet a wonderful husband. I mean, it was just very, very nice. And her podcast is called The Shared Path. It's on YouTube, Spotify. What are the other
Apple and Google.
Apple,
Yeah,
Google. Yeah. And I'm
Google.
going to be on this Thursday at
Yes,
7
you are.
p.m.
Yes, you are.
So we're going to be talking. It's going to be live. So it's going to be a first live one, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be my first live one. I'll figure it out by the time we get
No,
there.
we'll work it. No, it ain't not like it's going to be an organic thing. It's going to be fun. It's going to be
We'll be
organic fun.
working it.
Now, what I want to do, Maggie, just hold on. I want to make a couple of announcements, and then I want you to have the last say. All righty?
All right.
Okay. So, everybody, I want to let you know that I'm going to have this gentleman on. Let me see. His name is Richard Woods. He's going to be my guest on this Wednesday. Where are you? There you go. He's going to be my guest on this Wednesday, and he's going to be talking about numerology. So definitely get your birthdays ready. That's why I had to tell people today was not about birthdays. Today was a very special day because Maggie Linton helped me in more ways than people can imagine. God bless her. So I wanted to return it in kind. Also, I'm now available on TikTok. So I remember John Edwards, the psychic I had on, he says, Lloyd, you should be on TikTok. He told me over a year ago. I'm a little slow like the tortoise, but I get there. I cross the finish line, okay? So thanks, John Edwards, for that. The May is almost a wrap, but June is coming soon. So sign up for the free monthly newsletter. And for those of you, you can get my best-selling book, Numbers in You, in an audio book form. Just go to my website, lloyd-strayhorn.com. And I have a podcast just like Maggie Linton too. And it's called, of course, Numbers in You. That everything I do is Numbers in You. So please do that. And this is the app that you were talking about. It's called A Star 8. I would imagine either this Wednesday or by next Monday or no later than Wednesday at the latest. iPhone users can now download it. And just from the response I'm getting from the Android users has been tremendous. And Maggie, thanks for the plug. Love you for that. That was so
Honey,
unofficial.
like I said, as soon as I get off here, I may be running out to get my lottery tickets and everything, because it's a green day, 3 green stars, and that doesn't happen that often. So I'll be
That's
ready to
right.
go. Yeah.
And today and tomorrow, my classes are on sale. Now, last week or week before last, you could get all 3 for under $35. You see, they raised the price. So this is why I'm saying you can't wait till these sales, so this is very inexpensive too. So take
Mhm.
advantage, enroll, get all 3 of these classes and whatnot. So that's it. And So Maggie, I want you, my dear, to have the last say. What say you as we go? Because this has been a wonderful experience for me. And thank you so much, Maggie.
Oh, it's truly my pleasure. Folks, if you're listening to Lloyd, then you are getting some great guidance. But even more so than that, learn to pray, learn to ask God for guidance too, because that
Yeah.
He delivers. I'm here to tell you, He delivers if you put your faith in there. And I'm not one of these people who preaches, stands up and preaches and can quote everything from the Bible. I got Psalms 23 down, and that's about it.
I think
But
everybody got Psalms 23 down.
I think everybody's got that one. But I will tell you, find what you're supposed to be doing and treat everybody with respect the way you want to be treated. Learn how to take care of your finances. Because I'll never forget one time reading in the Washington Post's front page, a woman and her son living together in West Virginia were about to lose their house for less than $500 in taxes. We
Wow.
don't have to live like that. Learn to live beyond the paycheck to paycheck. Believe in yourself. Be willing to work for what you really want and find out what it is, and your blessings will come true.
Maggie, I love you very much, young lady. You
Love
have a
you too,
blessed
Lord.
day. All the best to your wonderful husband, and congratulations on
Thank
your
you.
39th wedding anniversary.
I
That's
found the right man.
obviously that speaks for itself. And I had the pleasure of meeting him, and I would say I agree. I
Thank you.
agree. Wise choice. Wise choice. Maggie, love you very much, and you take good care in the meantime. All right.
All right, can I finish the way I always tell people?
Yes,
Go
please
out
do.
and seek peace and spread lots of love.
That's so simple. Can you repeat that again, please?
Please go out, seek peace, and spread lots of love.
I think people should try that. I think their lives will be much better too. And it don't cost them anything either. That's the nice thing about it. Don't cost them a penny.
Not a
Love you
bit.
much, Maggie. And you
Love
take
you too,
care.
love.
All
All right.
right.
I'll see you Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday at 7. I'll be
All
there
right.
on time. And it's on the Shared Path on YouTube, Spotify,
Apple,
Apple, and
Google.
Google. Yes. All right. I'll be there. It's
All
gonna
right.
be fun. 7 o'clock. I'll be
I
ready.
think so too.
All righty.
All right.
Take care,
Talk to you later.
Maggie. Bye
Love
bye.
you.
All the best, dear. Love
Thank
you.
you. Bye bye. Love you.
Everybody, I want to thank you very, very much for this. This was a very important piece for me because this woman, Maggie, that just got on, she was a mainstay for me and spread my name all throughout the tri-state area of Washington, Maryland, and Virginia, and elsewhere. I mean, even when she left the station, people who are part of the station were still calling me to be their guest on the station. So the ripple effect was just amazing. And so once she did that, I just want to return the favor in kind. So God bless her. And God bless you too. Everybody, y'all take care until Wednesday. All righty. And in the meantime, bless all of you.